It's time for Forward Nation Radio. Now here he is, the host of Forward Nation Radio, David Leventhal.
The U.S. Supreme Court rejects the appeal of a death row inmate who got the death sentence because he was gay. Gee, I hope Paul Manafort isn't gay. Welcome to Forward Nation Radio with me, David Leventhal. Paul Manafort, I'm sure you're watching because apparently you have some time on your hands these days. Today's show will generally be devoted to immigration issues, and we are proud to have a special guest on today's show, Cristina Jiménez, a 2017 recipient of the MacArthur Genius Grant, and the co-founder of UnitedWeDream.org, the largest immigrant youth-led community in the United States. Before that, a little bit of news. And before that, a little bit of a mea culpa. I've mentioned on this show before that I kind of consider myself, aspire to be a bit of a comedian, whereas I'm often told by my producer that I should be aspiring to be a sober commentator, which is what my day job and my expertise would tend to recommend. I sometimes lose my way in that. Last week, for those of you who watched last week's show before it got edited, I had a joke that was may or may not have been funny, that was probably inappropriate and most likely, certainly anyway, vulgar. And for that, for those who heard it and for anyone who was offended, I apologize, and it was my mistake, and I recommit to make sure that this is a show in the future that you could watch with your children and perhaps with your parents as well. Anyway, on to the news. The New York Attorney General lawsuit was big news this week. Yes, it was still this week. It seems like ages ago. The lawsuit against the Trump Foundation and the Trump family, including the President of the United States. Shocking that the Trump Foundation was used as Donald Trump and the Trump family's personal piggy bank? Now, if you've been watching this show, because we reported on this, I think, over a year ago, when journalists, aka the liberal media, were reporting on this story. The only question we really have is, what took the AG so long? Presumably, it was really putting together an airtight case. And this is going to be interesting. It has also referred the case to the IRS for blatant criminal tax fraud and to the Federal Election Commission, which won't care. As we've talked about, it doesn't do anything because it's half Republican, but at least they might enjoy getting something in the mail that isn't junk mail. Also, regarding Trump and his criminal liability and Russia, etc., the DOJ report came out about the FBI's conduct with respect to the 2016 presidential election. Unsurprisingly, the report found that the FBI put its thumb on the scales and acted inappropriately, including FBI Director James Comey, who saw this one coming, acted inappropriately in putting their thumbs on the scale to get Donald Trump elected president and to undermine Hillary Clinton's election campaign. Or, as Trump puts it, yes, I was proven right. Victory for me. They tried to steal the election. Where does Trump come up with this? Well, mostly he pulls it out of his butt. But where else does he come up? Well, there were, of course, those famous 7 or so words from one FBI agent to another FBI agent who he was romantically involved with. Imagine that. They were shocked that this criminal, liar, incompetent was possibly going to become president of the United States. And they injudiciously and inappropriately said, we're going to put a stop to this. What did they then do to make that happen? Their nefarious plot included doing absolutely nothing and letting the FBI help throw the election to Donald Trump. So in other words, for Donald Trump, complete vindication. Anyway, the Supreme Court was in the news again this week on an issue that we've talked a lot about. In fact, had a special guest on a few months ago. It's gerrymandering or gerrymandering decisions, including the Gil V Whitford case out of Wisconsin, where representative democracy is taken away from the average voter by a, all of a sudden, I'm from Massachusetts, was taken away. Where's that Bernie imitation when I need it? I know, not Massachusetts, New England anyway. Or Long Island will work too. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? No, actually, really, what was I talking about? Taken out of the hands of voters by political parties who just want to win instead of promote democracy. This basic idea that voting should actually mean something in America was being tested in front of the United States Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court this week essentially punted, throwing the case down to do a further analysis as to whether the plaintiffs had standing to sue. Standing meaning you can demonstrate verifiable injury to yourself, which justifies being able to bring a lawsuit. But that overlooks the problem. In fact, the decision was a supermajority. It wasn't a conservative 5-4. But the underlying case, the underlying argument is 5-4. We had a concurrence filed by the 4 moderate or liberal judges who were pointing out how they believed the standing issue should be addressed by the lower courts. Why were they doing that? They were doing that because they understand how the standing issue is going to be addressed by their colleagues, the 5 conservative justices. The same way they usually do standing, which is, can you show me that a white guy Republican was injured? If not, no lawsuit. It is a reminder of how important the courts are. It is a reminder that at this point in time already in the Trump administration, 1 out of 9 federal appeals court judges have been appointed by Donald Trump. The 2nd and 3rd Circuit Courts of Appeal, covering the liberal states of New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, among others, are about to have a conservative judge majority, despite never voting for Republicans to put conservative judges in. How do we address this? Democrats need to take back the Senate, period, the end. And you need to get out and you need to vote no matter how hard they're trying to stop you. Anyway, the big topic for today's show, the war on immigrants and refugees continues apace and grows even stronger. You've all had to have seen the news by now, unless you're in some bunker somewhere. The stories are sickening. Maybe you've listened to the ProPublica audio tape, secretly made in a detention center. Children being ripped from their parents' arms. A detainee who commits, seeking refugee status, who commits suicide because his infant child is ripped from his arms and he is taken away from his family. We are in an existential crisis right now, questioning who we are as a country. And the Trump administration's response to this? Severalfold. 1, deny, deny, deny. Prevent U.S. senators and congresspeople from getting into child detention centers where they could report on what's happening. Have the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, of I don't know if Norway's white fame, turns out that was the high point of her career, pointing out that it was definitely not true, full stop, that we are doing this. Well, we are doing this. Once the audio tapes started coming out and the videotapes, the GOP went to strategy number 2. Blame it on God. Jeff Sessions pulling out the Bible and saying God did this. Leading God, I understand, to call up the liberal media and say, leave me out of this. These people are jackasses. Okay, then blame it on the Democrats. This is all their fault. This is the victimology of the Republican Party. You have everything, you win everything, you have all the money, all avenues of power in this country, despite the fact that the voters don't want it, and you are still the victim. Poor Democrats are somehow stopping you from doing anything you want to do. Blame it on Democrats for separating lawful asylum seekers. Well, it turns out that's not true either. What a surprise. It's all being done by the Trump administration, making decisions to arrest everyone who shows up at the border including people seeking refugee status, and separating lawful asylum seekers from their families. They went to the next step of avoiding responsibility by covering themselves in the Obama. Obama did stuff like this too. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. Two things. One, Obama wasn't God. We don't do cults in the Democratic Party. We accept that. When he does wrong, we could say it. Second of all, how come the anti-Obama everything people, everything Obama did that was good, you guys are undoing? Why do you have to continue and build upon the things that he did that weren't good? Just because Obama did something bad doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because Obama did something good doesn't mean you have to undo it. Then the next step, of course, was to dehumanize. Because this kind of treatment, inhumane treatment of children and other human beings, only plays in Peoria if you can tell people that they're all criminals, they're all awful, they're somehow less than full humans. The color of their skin certainly helps with that. A woman in Trumplandia recently was on NPR saying, we need to protect ourselves from criminals. The fact that these people are overwhelmingly not criminals and less criminal than people born in America doesn't really matter. Shouldn't we be able to protect our citizens and also have a heart? But anyway, the good news is the final step of the Republican reaction to this for maybe an unprecedented time was for Trump to give in. And just before we went to air today, he signed an executive order which at least, though it will have problems, which at least will end, presumably, the separation of children from their parents. At least that's a start. We ask for so little. Anyway, we'd like to go to our interview now. We have a special guest that we are excited about, and we're going to go to Cristina Jiménez right now. Welcome back. We are now very excited to welcome to the show Cristina Jiménez, 2017 recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant and a co-founder of UnitedWeDream.org, the largest immigrant youth-led community in America, offering support, engagement, and empowerment to the immigrant community. Cristina was instrumental in organizing the national campaign that led to DACA. Cristina, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thank you.
It's been a bumpy ride this year, I'm guessing.
It's been a very, very difficult year for the country, particularly after the 2016 election. And for families like mine and immigrant communities across the country, it's been really difficult to experience the backlash of this administration against this community. And many of them, were campaign promises that Trump made during the campaign trail in terms of mass deportation and things like the Muslim ban. And we are seeing all of those promises, unfortunately, come to fruition.
So on DACA in particular, we've talked about DACA on this show at length. Where do we currently stand?
It was a campaign promise to terminate the DACA program, which protects close to 1 million young people from deportation, including people like my own brother, who's 23. And this administration killed the program in September of last year, which meant that the lives of thousands of young people across the country who had been feeling some level of safety with their DACA to be protected from deportation are now at risk of deportation. New applicants are not able to longer apply. And for people who are current applicants, the only thing that is available to them at this moment is a pending legal battle that we have with this administration until the Supreme Court decides the fate of DACA. But what we're seeing in our communities is that the Trump administration is sending his deportation agents across the country, targeting people with DACA and without DACA. And that has led to a lot of fear and terror in our communities.
Obviously, the family separation policies have been in the news a whole lot. This is one where Trump, in a rare moment, backed down. Does any of this, do you see reason to be hopeful of positive outcomes?
We have been seeing the outcry of the entire country, and you're even seeing this in the polls. Over 60% of Americans are against the zero-tolerance policy implemented by the president and Jeff Sessions that is right now criminalizing parents who are seeking refuge in the United States and wanting to seek asylum, and separating them in cruel ways and inhumane ways from their children. Now we have even camps in the middle of the desert in places like Tornillos, Texas, holding over 200 children that have been torn apart from their parents. And unfortunately today, despite the outcry and the pressure that has been put on this administration to terminate this policy, they have even gone further today by signing on an executive order that will now keep in jails and in these detention camps entire families.
I have not yet gotten a chance to take a look at what the executive order was. I understand it was to keep families together, but you're saying it's going to promote even longer detention. Correct.
This is, at this moment, what we understand of this executive order is that in the name of quote unquote keeping families together, the administration will now keep all these families together with their kids in jails indefinitely.
The audio tape that came out from ProPublica, the videotapes that have been coming out, the stories of infants being ripped from their parents' arms, as tragic as it is, how do you build on the momentum, perhaps, of the outrage that so many of us, as you pointed out, 60-something% of Americans have a problem with this? How do you build on that? Have you thought about that?
I think that we're going through a moment of awakening, where the country is witnessing cruelty and human rights violations at a scale that we haven't seen in these communities in a long time. And I think that has really motivated people to reach out to their members of Congress to intervene. I truly believe that if the country keeps pressure on this administration and members of Congress to intervene, that there may be a way for this administration to back down, and to even for Congress to defund this agency that is going rogue and out of control and has committed multiple violations that have been both reported by national and international organizations as well as media. So there is a power that we have as people of this country and civil society to put pressure on our members of Congress to intervene. And the answer is to stop this policy right now and to hold the Department of Homeland Security and its deportation agents accountable for the cruelty that they're committing.
Well, that leads to, obviously the most important question that I could ask for the sake of us and our viewers. What can people do?
What people can do is engage in this moment, to pay attention to what is happening, and to call their members of Congress to intervene right now. You can find information about how to call your member of Congress through UnitedWeDream.org and following United We Dream in all of our social media. And people can also text the word "here to stay," one word, "here to stay," to 877-877, 877-877 with the word "here to stay," and you will be able to join our network of communities across the country that are taking action. Whether you are an immigrant or not, the country is really coming together to make a very clear statement that this is not the country that we want to be, and that these policies don't represent the values of our country.
Cristina, we will certainly link to put up the link for your organization and put down that information regarding texting to our viewers. And I know you've got a lot of work to do, and we want to wish you the best of luck, and we thank you for your time. And
great to be here. Thank you.
We hope, I guess, last word before I let you go. The Trump administration and supporters are justifying this by criminalizing and dehumanizing immigrants. What do you say to that?
Yes, what we are seeing is the agenda of a mass criminalization and deportation becoming a reality. And if we don't stop it, he will continue to do this in front of all of us and using our tax-paying dollars to lead this terrorizing agenda. And, you know, it is clear from everything that we have seen from this administration, from his comments about black immigrants when talking about immigration last year, when he used profanity to refer to black immigrants, as well as his recent comments claiming that immigrants are not people, but they are animals. This is the person that is in leadership of this country, and these are the kinds of very dangerous language and an agenda that we have seen in many other governments across the country have been used to justify genocide of entire communities. So we are in a very dangerous time, and you know, that's why I believe that it is so important for the majority of the country who stand against this agenda and this vision for our democracy to take a stand and speak up and to take action by calling their members of Congress.
Thank you. A dehumanization that, let's not forget, began the moment, at least with respect to his presidency, the moment he announced his presidential candidacy. The criminals aren't coming into the country. It might be a stronger argument that they're kicking people out. But thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with all of your work. And we will link to your organization and hopefully see a positive solution here.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Cristina. Thanks again to Cristina Jiménez, and good luck to UnitedWeDream.org. Please go on, help out however you can. You can go to some of their links through our website. Also, please like us on YouTube. Yeah, we're done. Like us on iTunes, on Podbean. Watch us where you can. Go to our website, our Facebook page. If you enjoy the show, please do like us. Please do share us with your friends. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week.
You've been listening to Forward Nation Radio with David Leventhal.